Hey folks, it's Nate, and today we are looking to the horizon. This is my first writing vlog on this channel. I'm kind of excited. I kind of don't know what I'm doing. I have never watched a whole lot in the way of writing vlogs outside of the occasional update from Brandon Sanderson, which is interesting, but probably not exactly what I'm going for here. I want to talk a little bit about the writing process, what I'm doing each week, kind of keep you in touch with what's going on, even when I don't have anything coming out. So our first thing to address is there is something coming out. In a couple of weeks, I hope to start recording Night Train to Hardwick, which is going to be the sequel to Fire Spinner and the next entry in the Roy Harper Adventures. Of course, if you're curious about those, all the Fire Spinner audio recordings are on this channel already, along with some illustrations done by yours truly. So if you want to get an idea of what the story there is, well, you can just go back and watch them. I have here in my hand probably about half of Night Train to Hardwick. More than this is written. I just don't have the other legal pad with me. This is how I do my first drafts. I write them by hand, just because I found keeping track of one of these easier than keeping space and a good connection free on a tablet or a phone to take to work and back with me. Not that I don't have uses for those things. It's just when it comes to writing, this is the most reliable for me. This is a personal choice thing. But yeah, so as you can see, the story is coming along. What we have here is about, let me see. Oh, well, that's not. There's some other stuff in here too. We have about 35 pages of story here. I think we're going to wind up with about that much on the other tablet. So probably about 70, 75 pages of story handwritten. And that's probably going to come out to about 2,000 words per chapter, 14 chapters. I will now do mental math live on camera. No, that's gonna come out to about 28, 29, maybe 30,000 words. It's going to be a little bit longer than Fire Spinner was, but not a whole lot. So hopefully, if you've already made it through that that story, you have an idea of what to expect. If you're not familiar with the Roy Harper Adventures, the thumbnail view is these are pulp adventures. These are adventures that focus on a character in a West that never was. The character's name is, of course, Roy Harper. He's something of a gunslinger. He's not really a sheriff. He travels around and he helps people solve their problems for a reasonable price. Now, right now, Roy is actually coming back from his previous adventure. We're just going to stick with him on the train between two stations. It's a simple, small, straightforward story that's hopefully going to give you a better idea of what his character is, as opposed to a broad idea of what the world is like. If you want to know about Roy's world and his place in it, you can get a better idea of that by reading or listening to Fire Spinner, which I really recommend you do before reading or listening to this story. But Night Train to Hardwick can definitely stand on its own, so if you just want to jump in with what's going on, by all means do so. I'm writing these because I really feel like fun adventure stories have just vanished. They're not really in culture anymore. I love the work of J.R.R. Tolkien, but unfortunately, the massive media success that his writing has enjoyed over the last 20 years or so, yeah, it's been 20 years since those movies came out. How about that? But that massive success has just driven so much imitation. Everything has to be big. It has to be epic. It has to be huge in scope and laden with overtones and ideas about the fate of the world and all this other kind of stuff. All of that is great. Moderation. Unfortunately, between stories like A Game of Thrones and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, everyone has become highly invested in these huge stories. And admittedly, the MCU is not as bad as it could be about this. Many of their individual stories are quite small, and they're just tied together with characters who continue to appear. And that doesn't have to lead to the kind of franchise bloat that it always seems to. It can be done well. One of the best users of the small recurring characters is probably Stephen King, who I'm not a huge fan of, but he does make good use of characters like Flag to give you an idea of tone and theme, or even Isaac Asimov, who had Daniel Olivaw as a recurring supporting character to kind of stitch his stories together into a cohesive world, uh, but one where you could still pick up most of those stories and read them and enjoy them. And I want the Roy Harper Adventures to be more like that than like the MCU. I want stories in a cohesive world with a cohesive set of characters that you can kind of live with and enjoy and know more about. But they're primarily just going on simple adventures, not adventures without stakes. You're going to be saving towns and fighting off supernatural villains and things like that. And generally, going out and doing the kind of cowboy work in a world with no cowboys, well, very few cowboys, and a heavy dose of magic. But still enjoying those kind of pulpy adventures that you can just pick up, you can read, and you say, man, that was a great story. That's my hope. So right now I am working on Night Train to Hardwick with a look at an intimate story, by which I mean one with not that many characters, where you spend a lot of time with those characters, where you kind of know what the characters' motivations and goals are very clearly by the end. The kind of story where you can really say, okay, it doesn't seem like anything important to the world happened in this story, but man, it was pretty important to these people. And so that's the kind of tone and direction I'm going for in Night Train to Hardwick, and I hope you will find that to your satisfaction. Anyway, that's your update for this week. I will come back to you with more on the editing process, as it is starting to really get underway now. And until then, you can comment and let me know what you think of our need for pulp stories and simple adventure stories down below. And you can like this video to kind of help grow the channel. I'd appreciate it a lot. Talk to you later.